The following program paid for by Rosenberg Financial Group. Providing live finance advice since 1993. It's time for Your Money with Steve Rosenberg, Sherri Goss, Randy Goss, and Becca Wilton. To participate in today's program, call 478-742-0940 with your financial questions and comments. And now, live from the Macon studios of News Talk 940 WMAC, it's Your Money.
Good morning, Middle Georgia. Becca Wilton and Sherri Goss are here to take your phone calls today, 742-0940, 478-742-0940. A lot going on out there, but before we get into it, I want to tell you about an opportunity. And I'm going to try to come up with these opportunities every week because I need you to get out of your house.
For your own sake,
yeah,
too.
For your own sake, get out of your house, get out of a rut. If you're in a rut, you need to get out of it because it's not healthy. And if you're sitting home watching news all day long, that's a really bad plan.
Yeah, that's depressing to sit and watch that news all day.
So here's an opportunity. So Lisa Mount, if you don't know about her, she is a social worker for Heart of Georgia Hospice in Warner Robins, and I've referred a bunch of people to her in the last year for grief counseling because we've lost a lot of folks. And she's available, and you can email me, Sherri, Sherri, at rfmoney.com. I'll send you her contact information, and you can call her if you've had a loss in your family and you need to see a grief counselor. They do not charge. It is absolutely free because Heart of Georgia Hospice is a nonprofit, and she's a fantastic person. I've known her for years. It's completely confidential, and she knows what she's doing. Well, anyway, we were talking last week, and she said, you've got to meet our new director. She's amazing. So I went over and I met with her, and they're right off Watson Boulevard and Houston Lake Road. I met with the new director, and she was telling me about the fact that they need volunteers. So I thought about all of you because you might be looking for an opportunity to get out of your house and do something constructive. So one of the things that they need volunteers for is they have 2 donation centers. And people donate clothing and furniture and all this stuff. Well, they have to have people that'll sort and price and stock all of this stuff that they put out on the shelves. Well, guess what? All the money that they make at these donation centers goes to pay for hospice treatment for people who are indigent, people who do not have the money or the insurance to be covered by anything, and they end up in needing hospice care, and this is what pays for it. So what you're doing, this little bitty thing that you do, you could sign up for once a week, makes all the difference in somebody else's life. So that's just one little thing. She said a lot of people are not interested in doing anything at a donation center. It's just not their thing. She said those people can do back office work for us. They can do filing, and they have a kids camp they put on every year for kids who've lost a family member to help them deal and cope with loss. So there's a lot of stuff you could do there. And so contact me if you're interested in helping them out because that's a really positive, constructive thing to do with your time. And I want to get you off that couch.
I went to one of their centers a few weeks ago, the one up in the beach shops. It was so nice, and everybody in there was so friendly. It was actually Mother's Day weekend, and they had free cupcakes. They were trying to give them away. But it was just
nice.
really neat. Yeah,
they're just a great organization. They're the only nonprofit hospice in Warner Robins. I don't know if there's one in Macon. I haven't looked it up, but they're just a really good organization. The second thing you can do is invest in yourself and other people around you by calling us up on our office phone at 922-8100 and talking to Becca or me about us coming into your workplace or your club or your community group or your church and offering a program. Programs are starting to pick back up because people are starting to get out and want to learn. And so it can be anything from Becca's financial planning to estate planning, life book, and anything in between. I've had programs where people have just said, just show up and we want to ask you a bunch of questions. And we just have a bunch of questions and we're just going to have a free-for-all. And we can, and that's not pre-scripted. It's not pre-approved by compliance, but we can send in the material afterwards. So anyways, call us and get us out there and let us help you learn and grow financially and help us be able to make a difference in other people's lives because maybe you've got it all together, but maybe there's people around you that don't. And you never know.
People like that.
Yeah. There are people like that maybe even look like they have it all together, but they really don't. And they have a lot of questions because we see those people.
Yes.
They come in and they talk to us and they have all these questions that we would assume they would know by now, and they don't. So don't assume everybody knows everything. Get us out there and let us help you.
So check out our website, www.retirerelax.com. There's all sorts of great special reports on there, some how-tos, if you've lost somebody, just kind of a help of different things you need to think about and make sure things are taken care of. Social Security, like Sherri said, we can talk about Social Security. So many people have questions about that.
We could do a whole seminar on that.
Yes.
Right.
And then I have a video series about financial planning on the website. It's under the financial planning tab and resources. There's a 3-part series on how to create your own personal financial plan with some worksheets that you can fill out, just kind of a really basic thing. But for those of you maybe that don't want to come in and talk to anybody, or maybe it's a good way to get you started on that path, and then you kind of want to get deeper with that, and then give Sherri or I a call or email us. There's also a video on there about your cash flow. You can't save for retirement and your dreams and goals if you don't have any money left each month. So maybe you need to find ways to put more money into your budget so you can save a little more. Or a lot of people have to start with digging out of debt. That's the other video on there. Sometimes you just get in a situation, sometimes beyond your control, or sometimes you get out of control with your spending. And you can watch this video, gives you some ideas on how to get out of debt. And again, they're just kind of high-level videos to give you some ideas. And if you do need more help with any of that, Sherri and I would love to be there and be a resource for you to help you.
We're not going to charge you a dime.
We just like to talk to people.
Yeah. And I tell you what, we learn. We learn from the people who come and see us.
Absolutely.
And so we learn, and then we can spread that around. And so it's all comes around, goes around. But that's all just really great stuff. Anyways, was there anything else I meant to say about that? I don't think so. So let's get on with the program. And if you want to call us, 478-742-0940 is the number.
All right. So, again, some of the things that people ask us about, we've had, a lot of clients in their late 50s, early 60s, and we start talking about Social Security. And I would say that's one of the biggest questions I get from people is, when should I take Social Security? And just like, several things we're going to cover today, it all depends. And that's why you do need to talk to a financial advisor, look at weigh all the options, all your pros and cons, because everybody's situation is different, and it can be, it can be life-changing if you take it too early or too soon or too late, life-changing in a good way or a bad way. So the first thing I wanted to cover was Social Security. There's spousal benefits and there's survivor benefits, and they're easy to get confused. So if you have spousal benefits, the most your spouse can receive on your work record is 50% of your primary insurance amount, which is the monthly benefit you're entitled to at full retirement age. So if your spouse maybe was at home with the kids, or maybe just didn't work as much, didn't have quite as much of a benefit, then they're eligible to get 50% of your benefit, but it's what you were getting at your full retirement age, which was probably a 66 and 2 months or somewhere around that range. And they're able to get 50% of that. But if you wait until 70 to take your benefit, it's not going to give that spousal benefit anything extra. So you're not going to help the spouse get more by you waiting to take your retirement in that case. The place that does help is the survivor benefit. So if you wait until you're 70 to take your Social Security, and you get the full amount plus those extra 8%, those extra years at 70, then if you pass away after that, your spouse would be eligible to get that full amount that you were getting.
So the one case I saw years ago, I had a client whose spouse died. It was horrible. And so he was still working. And even though he was working and his benefits would be reduced, we agreed, because his spousal benefit, her benefit was much less than his. We went ahead and had him apply for spousal, and he used it to pay his mortgage off.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was just extra money that went right on the mortgage. So the plan was that would pay the mortgage off, and then once he retired, he flipped over to his own. So it matters how you do this, and you need a strategy and a plan. And a lot of people have a hard time even getting on the website, which is frustrating to me, because it should be so easy. And it's ssa.gov, and you click on My Social Security. You have to create a username and a password. And then you have to verify information like where you've lived and all that kind of stuff. And so once you do that, then you can get in, you can download your statements. And so when you come and see us, bring those, because that really matters.
Yeah, we need to know what your benefit is at each level, at each age. And like Sherri's saying, there's so many rules. At 62 is the earliest you can start taking Social Security. And to qualify for different benefits, spousal benefits, you have to be married at least 12 months. We talked about in the past that you're also eligible for benefits based on your ex-spouse's work if you're married at least 10 years and you're currently unmarried. So there's just so many little ins and outs. And, we see a lot of people. And so we research a lot of this for our clients. And we'd be happy to help you and share what we know and to dig in deeper if we need to for your situation.
So what was amazing is back during the downturn, back in 2008, when the market dropped so much because of the housing bubble, there were less tax revenues going into Social Security. And so the Social Security Trust Fund came out. The report comes out every year, and they were predicting doom, gloom, and a crisis of the thing running out of money. And so tons of people came to us saying, I want to apply now while I can get what I can get, because I can get it now, and there's no guarantee if I wait that I'll be able to get anything. Well, that ended up being false.
I still have people that come in and say, I should take it early because I just want to start getting it while I can, because they're just afraid it's going to go away.
Yeah. Well, it's not going to go away. The trust fund comes out every year, the report. And then there, of course, there's the story of, well, there's not really any money at Social Security because it's all a big scam and all of that. But the bottom line is it is paying a benefit. Can you imagine any presidential candidate running on a platform of doing away with Social Security? How successful would that candidate be? Can you imagine the voter turnout?
So he'd probably get offed before before it even got to that point.
I mean, nobody could run on that. There's no way this can go away. Everyone's dependent upon it to survive. And for a lot of people, the majority of the country, that's all they have. They have Social Security. That's what they live on. So it's not going to go away. So don't depend on that, and don't make a decision based on that belief, because it's wrong, and you could be giving up 8% a year is what you lose by taking it early. Yes. Every year to age 70, you make another 8%. I mean, where are you going to get that guaranteed for life? I mean, that's a big deal.
And we've talked about before, the millennials right now, they're like the largest group of people, and they're working hard. So we want to keep them working, encourage them. If you have millennials,
paying taxes.
Yes, keep them working, encourage them so they can help add to the Social Security fund.
Right. And they don't believe they're going to get anything. The statistics are out of that. They've done surveys of millennials. They don't think they'll ever get a dime out of it.
Well, maybe if they don't plan for it, we can all get that money then.
There you go. All righty. So credit reports. I did not realize this until I saw this article this week, but there was a study done by Consumer Reports of a group of people, 5,858 people, from February 1st to April 1st, and of these people, 34% found at least one error on their credit report, which is kind of shocking because I've had one in my whole life, and it was an account that was old, and they hadn't closed it and gotten rid of it. But I mean, that's amazing to me.
Yeah, the only error I've ever had, I was engaged, and I must have applied for credit with my fiance.
Yikes.
And so my name went from my maiden last name on my credit report to that last name. And we never actually got married, but I guess somehow because his name was on the application and my name was on the application or something. So I had that name on my credit report, which I was never officially that name.
Oh, my gosh.
But it didn't really matter.
You know how much garbage could have followed you? If he had bad credit,
all of that did.
And all that trash could have glommed over onto your credit report, and then you didn't even get married. That would have been bad.
Yeah. But I've never had an error, and it was interesting, and later in the article, they kind of said, oh, that's so untrue. We really don't have errors, but...
Yeah. So it says, unfortunately, and this is what I hear, sometimes folks find out way too late when they're in the middle of getting a loan for a new house or a car. And we've run into this with people that we've tried to help, where they go out and apply for the loan without looking at their credit. And they have some old crappy thing on their credit report that they never got removed that was like paid off years ago with late payments or whatever. Or something that wasn't even legit. And they don't even think about looking at their credit. So you've got to go to annualcreditreport.com, look at all 3 of your credit reports. It is absolutely free. And I didn't know this until I read this article.
Isn't that crazy?
Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion are offering free weekly credit reports through next year.
Could you imagine if you were obsessed and you pulled your credit report every week?
What would be the point of this?
It would never change that much.
I guess if you're trying to get rid of something so that you can, and probably because of the pandemic and the layoffs and all the stuff that went on during that is probably why they're doing this. But I guess if you're disputing something, you want to go and check it every week, but it's free.
But basically,
weekly.
As many credit reports as you want over the next year.
Yeah, wear yourself out. So if an error is about your personal information and it's preventing you from accessing your credit report online or by phone, you have to write a letter to the reporting firms, which I've never had that problem, but obviously these people are having that problem. And this, if you want this article, just email me, Sherri, Sherri, at rfmoney.com. But talk to your kids about this, because they may not understand. If your kids are millennials, they may not understand, or even the younger generation, Gen what, Z?
Yep.
They may not understand the importance of this before they go apply for anything. So I had a client, he brought me his grandson. And the grandson graduated from a really prestigious college, was on a sports scholarship, great grades. I mean, did everything right. He gets out of college, he gets his first job, and he goes to apply for a loan to buy a car, and he gets denied because his credit was destroyed because his mother had applied for a credit card with him in his name and her name, and then she used it and didn't pay the bill.
Wow.
And he had no idea it was even out there. And then he had an unpaid medical debt from some operation he had in college that he assumed his insurance covered, and it didn't, and nobody paid the bill. And so both of those things have been rotting on his credit report all these years.
Wow.
So now he's having to go, I advised him on how to do settlements, which we can talk about that. How you can settle with the creditor. If you're going to do it, you better get it in writing first and have proof that they've agreed to the settlement. You've dealt with this with the banking background. But I had to walk him through how to do this, and he was devastated because he needed a car. And he couldn't buy one without going to one of these buy here, pay your car lots, which I told him, no. You do not want to do that. You're going to pay an exorbitant rate of interest. But anyways, so he's back on track, but he didn't find out until he was applying. Don't do that. Get your kids and your grandkids educated on this. Annualcreditreport.com. And then to look at their FICO score, it's annual, is it scorecard? What is that?
I'm not sure.
I know this off the top of my head. Scorecard. I'm going to have to look it up.
Email us and we'll tell you.
Yeah, we'll email you. But anyways, but you need to look at the scorecard. The credit scorecard, creditscorecard.com, is sponsored by Discover Card. Discover Card years ago started a deal where they would give you, if you applied for a Discover Card, they'd give you a free credit report. And it was so popular that they decided to create a free website. So you go to creditscorecard.com, you get your free FICO score. And what it tells you is not only your score, but it tells you specifically based on your score what you could do to improve your score. And it's all absolutely free. And at the very end, they pitch you a Discover Card. Don't apply for it. You don't need that. Just go in, log in, get your stuff, and get out. But there's a lot of free tools now that you can help you. So don't flail around by yourself. There's a lot of help.
Maybe it could be like an annual thing you do on your birthday or some
that's
some
a good
anniversary
trigger.
of something.
Ooh, anniversary gift to each other. Wow, that's really fun.
But like Sherri said, the things that you take care of when you find something, it's so much easier to take care of it if it's been the last 6 months or a year. Like that gentleman she was talking about, it may have been that surgery could have been 5 or 6 years ago.
It was.
Trying to find the hospital, the doctors, the billing. It's so much harder. I used to do mortgage lending, and we would pull up the credit reports, and there was always surprises on there, and people would be like, well, I think I paid that off, and trying to get them to search for stuff, it took a lot of effort to try and go back and find things years and years later. And like she said, the Gen Zs, all the kids that are in college right now, you hope nobody in your life would do anything wrong, but you're applying for credit cards, there's all this stuff, you got student loans, so it's a good time that you want to check your credit report to make sure that nobody got your mail by accident, depending on what kind of living facility you're in.
That's a good
people
point.
could have got your stuff, they could have opened credit cards in your name, so be real careful. And like Sherri said, if you're checking it regularly, you can stay on top of things and make sure nothing sneaks on there that you don't know about.
So they did away with the whole free credit card offers on college campuses because it was such a nightmare. People were opening credit card accounts just to get a free T-shirt
and a water bottle or whatever, a keychain.
Yeah, what a deal, man. Well, now all they did was make a radius of the school that it's off limits, and so all of the surrounding bars and restaurants are doing the same thing. they just made it move away, so it's not like in your face at the student union. It's just if you go 2 blocks in the other direction, you're still. So you need to talk to your kids before they go to college and warn them about this and explain to them how this works, and not to apply for credit they don't need and don't understand and could use and get themselves in a hole.
Yes.
So Clark Howard has another article if you want that. This is about disputing credit scores and credit information that's not accurate. You can email us and we'll send you this article too, but I don't want to spend any more time on that because most of you know this stuff, but you might have people in your life that you need to spread this around too, as a Father's Day gift that's coming up.
There
you
we
could
go.
do a reverse Father's Day gift, and you could give them the gift of good credit.
So yeah, the article's great. It gives you the steps and how to find an error, what to look for, how to report it. And then one of the things was keep copies of everything and stay on top of the process.
Yes, very excellent.
That's with everything with your financial world. Stay on top of it.
Yay. Alrighty, so where does your credit file go when you die? So I had a case, I've talked about it once before, a year ago, September, and this guy came to me and his wife had been sick in and out of hospitals for 5 years and she passed away. So he goes out of town for a few days to take a break and comes back, and it turns out he wasn't getting any mail. So his neighbor was supposed to be picking up the mail, and he's like, man, you didn't have any mail while you were gone. He goes, that's not possible. So he calls the post office and they said, oh, you changed your post office address to P.O. Box in New Jersey a couple weeks ago. When he said, well, I didn't do that. Well, this is fraud. So they went and they had his wife, who had been in and out of hospice and all these hospitals. Somebody snagged her social and her ID, went by and got mail out of their mailbox, changed their address, and applied for credit cards in her name on the day she passed away.
Oh, wow.
Because they could get away with it.
Yep.
And so he was able to shut it down. And so you need to shut down the credit of people when they pass. This needs to happen at the funeral home level. In fact, I was going to call a place. In fact, I need to write myself a note. I need to call because I think this, just like they will apply for your life insurance for you and they will apply for Social Security survivor benefits for you, this needs to be part of the package of what they do as far as reaching out and shutting down credit reports of people who die, because this is a massive scam. And you need to shut it down. And you only have to let one of these credit bureaus know. If you notify one credit bureau that this person has passed away with a death certificate, then they report it to the other two. So you don't have to report to all three, but it needs to be done, just because there are people out there that will prey on this, and they will look at obituaries and they will go by your house when you say you're not going to be home. I mean, just protect yourself.
And we have more information about this, about where your credit file goes when you pass away, on our special report on the website. And like Sherri's saying, your lenders can, once you've notified one of them, they can let the credit reports know. The Social Security Administration may, but it's a good idea for you or the executor of the state to go ahead and do it, just to make sure it gets taken care of.
You don't want to help the scammers.
No.
You need to shut them down. Anyways, but I need to call the funeral home.
I wonder, because they need the death certificate, I wonder if it's something they'd have to put on their to-do list, like after they get the death certificates back, the funeral home.
I don't know, but this client that called me that I saw a few weeks ago, she said when she called her life insurance policies for her deceased husband, the life insurance company said, what funeral home did you use? And she told them the funeral home. They, while she was on hold, called the funeral home and pulled up the death certificate. They went to the funeral home website, pulled up the death certificate online, verified it online, and then paid her claim.
Wow.
For sending her checks. She didn't even have to fill out any paperwork or anything. So the funeral home has the death certificates, because that's how they file all this stuff. So you would think they would do this at the same time. I'm going to find out.
Yeah, that's great.
All righty.
All right. This week, some of the questions that came up, I have a couple things that some of my clients asked about, so it always triggers us to do some more research and dig a little deeper. I have a client that him and his wife have retired. They're in their early 60s. They're very fortunate they were able to retire already. And I was looking through their accounts, and we were trying to just kind of do an overall financial plan and look through everything. And I noticed that they had stopped contributing to their Roth, but they had been doing their Roth contributions for years, and then they stopped, obviously, when they retired. Well, I had talked to him before, and the wife actually has a side business that she does from her home, and she makes a decent amount of money. And I started thinking, I'm like, well, hey, she has earned income. She could use that to contribute to her Roth and her husband's Roth. So we talked about it when they were in, and they're like, oh, we didn't know that. They were, excited that they learned something new, and she was very excited that her side business that her family gave her a hard time for occasionally was actually going to come in use. But he said, well, we have a rental property down at the beach. Would that count also? And I said, well, I don't think so. I said, that's considered, there's active income or passive income. And he's like, well, it's my business. It's my house. I'm renting it. It's an active thing. So I did a little research for him and gave him some printouts. And the definition as far as the IRS is concerned, earned income is your W-2 income, Schedule C net income, K-1 income from a partnership, where the partner's a material participant, or alimony if it's claimed on your taxes. So those are the only things that count as earned income that you can use as income to be able to contribute to a Roth. So what's not earned income that we would see the most likely would be rental properties, rental income, interest income, dividend income, capital gains, and pensions or Social Security, unemployment benefits. So, especially I think the rental property, is kind of questionable because most people would understand that Social Security benefits or unemployment benefits, those kind of things don't count. But the rental income is not considered truly earned income. It's more of an investment income. So you can't use that income if you do have a rental property and have a gain on your taxes. That won't count to use for your Roth. But if you have a side business, and even if your partner isn't even that helpful in the side business, you could still contribute to their Roth for them. And the two of you could put in up to $14,000 if you're over 50 years old.
So this thing with the savers, this tax credit, it says you may be eligible for a tax credit of 10 to 50% on the amount contributed to a Roth IRA. Low and moderate income taxpayers may qualify for this tax break called the Savers Credit. This retirement savings credit is up to $1,000, depending on your filing status, adjusted gross income, and Roth contribution. So there are limits. So taxpayers who are married and filing joint must have incomes below $66,000. So they would qualify for that, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Because of their income is very minimal. Head of household filers have to have incomes less than 46.5. Single taxpayers incomes below 33. That's interesting. I had never seen that anywhere before.
I've never heard of that. I had to find it in the article. Yeah.
And then Roths don't require minimum distributions, which is one of the benefits, and the money grows tax deferred, and it's because it's after tax money that you're contributing. So a Roth is a good thing, but there are income limitations. If your income is too high, you can't contribute, and so we can talk to you about all that if you have a question about it.
Yes, and with the Roth and the regular IRAs, you can contribute either up to $6,000 if you're 50 or below 50. If you're over 50, there's a catch-up, so you can contribute $7,000, and that's a combination between an IRA and a Roth. So you couldn't do $6,000 to each one of them. And like Sherri said, there's income limitations with regular IRAs. There's rules around if you're able to participate in your employment plan. So again, if you have questions about that, it's a great way to save and to save a little extra. But come see us. We'll be happy to help you and see what you're eligible for and help you get saving for the future.
So one of the questions I get frequently is I have a plan with my job and they match me at 3%. So I put in 3% of my income and I'm thinking about taking other money and putting it into a Roth. And where I always have a problem with that is that money that you put into that employer plan is pre-tax. So you're saving money right off the bat. I mean, you're saving. You have to look at your W-2, but look at how much you're putting in and look at how much it actually costs you. I mean, it's a huge deal to do pre-tax. And so I always encourage people, whatever the match is, to take all the match you can get.
Absolutely.
If it's 6%, oh my gosh, you're making 6% plus pre-tax
it's
contribution.
Free money.
This is huge. So that's priority. Then, Roth is great, but free money is better.
And it's great to have it maybe in one place. And when it's coming out of your paycheck, we're going to talk about some tips for beginning investors. I had someone ask me about that this week. And one of the things is doing an automatic payment. And just like Sherri said, if you have it coming out of your paycheck and it's going right into your 401k at work, it's just something you're not going to think about. And you're not going to be like, well, should I send that $50 in this month or not? And you don't have to make a conscious choice about it each month. It just happens.
And what I did is I was working and making more money each year. I took my raise and I increased my contribution every year. I didn't take the raise. We lived on what I started with. And then every year I would increase it. And you don't miss it. Once you get used to it and you're used to dragging green beans to work and whatever else, like Becca sees us eating all week long. I mean, I ate so much of the same thing this week I could hardly take it. But but we do our meal planning and then we take our food and that's what we eat and we save a pile of money and so we can save more. I mean, it just is. Just those kind of simple, basic things. If you can start into that and if you can get into a habit when you're young, when your kids are young and your expenses are high, you're paying for daycare for 2 kids, you're paying for after school care, you're commuting, you've got all these massive expenses. And if you can start saving then and then as income increases and those expenses go down and you can keep accelerating that, that's huge. But you have to be paying attention and you can't be living up to the next door neighbor's expectations.
Yes.
You have to be living cheap and not just spending wastefully. I mean, it's just not going to work. So
yeah, even if you do 1% each year, like you're saying,
Yeah.
you get raises, and maybe you're doing 5% because your company matches 5%, and then over the next 5 years you keep adding 1% till you get to 10% of your own contribution, and then you have your company 5%. It can be huge, and the sooner you can start, the better, because you've got all the time value of money that's going to help you out. You know, I was just thinking, could you imagine if you and Randy ate out every day?
oh my gosh, how
You'd
much we
spend
eat?
at least $20.
At least just lunch.
At least just lunch and that'd be, $100 a week. And then
Yes.
all the calories and all the junk food you put in your body.
And breakfast. I mean, if you did, I know people they'd eat out 3 times a day.
Oh, and their coffees or $5 coffees?
Yes. I don't do any of that. And so I don't know. I just got into a habit really early. Well, I worked at Consumer Credit Counseling Service. I started there in 1980. I don't even remember. A long time ago. And so I was counseling people on how to get out of debt and fix their credit. And about a week into it, I'm like, we have to change. I can't do this all day long. I can't counsel all people all week long and then come home and make a minimum payment on a credit card. And we were living in a house that we bought for $10,000.
Goodness.
Yeah, it had no windows, no heater, air. The plumbing, the floors were broken, the walls were cracked. I mean, the bathtub was falling through the floor. I mean, it was a VA assumable loan. So we got this house and we fixed it up while we were living in it. And so any dime we got went to Lowe's and to go buy things to fix the next thing. Like, what's the next thing? The electrical's kind of important, so we can have electricity. The heat and air is kind of important. The roof needs to be. We were up replacing the roof ourselves. I still remember that. I was terrified sitting up on top of this roof, and Randy's like, "We can do this," because that's what he's like. He's like, we can figure this out.
The things you've done.
Just go to Lowe's and they'll tell you how to do anything, and you go buy this stuff, and then you go home. But that's what really started it for us, is doing that and learning that we could fix things ourselves and not have to pay somebody else, and then just saving. If you can help your kids get started on that, it's huge for them.
You've saved hundreds of thousands of dollars, I'm sure, with all the work you two have done yourselves.
We've done 10 fixer-uppers now.
Wow.
We're on number 10 right now. But it's a lot of work, and not everybody wants to do that. But back then, we were like, we could go cut somebody's lawn for $25 and then go to Lowe's and buy the stuff we needed to fix something. And that's the kind of stuff we did. We made money any place we could and then just took the money and just kept fixing. And we were living on nothing. Randy was in real estate. It was so funny. The kids were little. They were like 3 and 5 about the time we got this place finished. We were living in it with these little kids in the process of all this mess.
Oh, goodness.
And so he was doing real estate on the side while he was going back to college to finish his degree so he could go back in the military. And when he made a real estate closing, our big thing we would all get haircuts because we couldn't afford. We didn't spend money on haircuts. I mean, literally, we did not spend money. We would all go get a haircut, and we would go to some buffet restaurant, was all you can eat, and we would sit and we would eat everything we wanted for like an hour. It was a nightmare for those people. And that was our celebration. And then it was like, after that, we were back to the deal, back to the fix, whatever it was. But those were good times, and we had really good memories from all of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was fun. We accomplished something, and the kids, because of all this, they learned how to do stuff.
Yeah.
So they're not afraid to try to fix something. That's the other element. I mean, paying someone else to fix everything is expensive.
It really is. And you don't
Anyways.
always know that you're getting a good job either.
Right? But anyway, so what do you have next?
So I had a client call this week, and she wanted to come in and see me, and she is 56, and she said she's really not saved much, and is it too late to start saving? And I tell people it's never too late. You can always start. I talk to a lot of people, and we talk about their past, and they kind of get this look on their face sometimes, and they start to get kind of in a sad spot. And I'm like, let's not talk about that. We no one can change the past, no matter what you've done in your life. You can't change the past. So let's look at today and look forward and see the best thing we can do with what you have. And so it's the same way with savings. I had a client in this week, and we looked at one of her accounts, and she was like, I put this amount in 22 years ago, and I can't believe it's not worth more. And I said, and she started getting really sad. And I said, well, let's not worry about that. What can we do with it going forward? It was protected. At least you didn't lose any money out of it. And just, try and stay on a positive note, because, we could always find things to depress us, but
Right.
let's stay positive. So I told her that I'd be happy to help her get set up on a savings plan. And so I found an article that I thought would be interesting to share with you guys, 10 best tips for beginning investors. And so this could be for people that are, starting later in life, or your Gen Zs or your millennials, or even maybe your high school kids that you want to start teaching them some good habits. But the number one thing is to start now.
Yes.
So don't wait for the perfect time to get started, and you want to start now and keep adding to it. Like Sherri said, if you can start small even, and then just start adding to it, and each year maybe adding a little bit more, as you make more money, you get raises, whatever, that's just going to keep adding on to it. Don't let the media scare you.
That's huge.
Yes, because you worry about the market, you get focused on all this stuff.
And it's all depressing, and it's all negative, because that's what attracts your attention. And so you have this thing in your brain called the amygdala, and it's your fight or flight response center. And so the media understands this, and so they show you scary stuff because they know that it's going to attract your brain, because you want to know if you should be scared or not. And that's what they do all day and night.
Could you imagine
everywhere.
if they only showed happy stories
No
and
one would
puppies and all that stuff?
No one would tune into it,
listen.
because we're not attracted to that. It's fun when we run across it, but as far as when it comes to the attraction, we're attracted to negative because we want to know, what should I be afraid of? What should I run? It's that fight or flight thing. And so they keep your adrenaline up all day long. You need to shut it down and go for a walk. Get out of the house.
Very good. One thing was to focus on your savings percentage. So like Sherri said, don't focus on the media. Don't listen to what they're saying about, certain techniques, or if you're actually listening to financial stuff, but focus on your percentage, and maybe pick a goal that you're going to start with, 2%, and then work your way up. A great goal is about 10%. And then maybe even if you're in your 40s to 50s where you're really trying to accumulate wealth, try and get up to 15%, but continually focus on maintaining and increasing your savings rate. Set goals. Use goals to determine your time horizon. So, the longer your time horizon, possibly the more risk that you could afford to take. But the next thing is to get to know your risk tolerance. And that's something I talk about with all my clients, is what are you comfortable with? And you don't ever want to be in something that you're uncomfortable being in, that every night you're worried about it. So you want to make sure that you are investing at a risk that's comfortable for you.
I like this thing that they say in here. The allocation you choose is similar to how fast you choose to drive your car.
I like that.
Which, based on I-75, we have a lot of potential clients that should be coming in to see us that are racing down I-75 100 miles an hour.
They will want to invest a lot.
Crazy.
Said start with broad-based investments, and we don't want to get into too much details about that, but your allocation is the mix that you have of stocks and bonds and cash, and so you want to make sure that mix is correct for you and your risk tolerance and your age and your goals. Keep your costs low, so make sure you know how much you're actually paying for your investing, and don't be afraid to ask for help. So that's we're here. We love to help people. We give free advice. We, do consultations. You can come in. We can look at what you already have, make sure you're on the right track. You don't necessarily even have to invest with us, but we love to be a resource for you. And the very last thing it has is to automate as much as you can. So set things up on an automatic investment, and you won't even remember that you're doing it. And then someday you'll end up with a big account, and you'll be really happy that you did.
Yay! We love that end of story. So anyways, we are Becca Wilton and Sherri Goss. We're certified financial planners with Rosenberg Financial Group. We have offices in Warner Robins and Macon. We do complimentary consultations to review all of the stuff that we're talking about: your investment accounts, your life insurance, your pension options, Social Security and when to take it, giving money to your kids, estate planning, the whole package. We sit down with you and cover all of this information in roughly an hour, and we can show you what we do. If you're interested, fine. If you're not, fine. It doesn't matter, because that's what we do. And what's interesting to me is when I meet with people, I always usually learn something. I learned something that I can use to help somebody else, because it might be a scenario that I wasn't ever in or I never thought about, because everybody's situation is so extremely different, of special needs children, special needs spouse. I mean, all of that stuff. So just come see us.
And help us learn too.
478-922-8100 is the phone number to call and make an appointment, and you can check us out on retirerelax.com. Alrighty. This next thing is fascinating to me. So people don't realize that the Industrial Authority is constantly hard at work to bring businesses to Middle Georgia. And we used to hang out with one of the guys that worked for Bibb County, and he couldn't tell us what projects he was working on, but he was always so excited about what they were working on because of the jobs that it brings to the community and the money that it brings to this area. And one of the projects that they worked on years ago was Kumo Tire.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was huge.
Yes.
I mean,
so
the paper
excited.
plant, all of this stuff that they bring in. So what they do is they get with the industrial authority, gets with all the other players, and they can put together a package, whether it's tax abatement or whether it's education through the community college to train staff to work at these specific facilities, because usually a specific type of plant has to have specific trained people. And so they'll put together an entire package and they bid against other areas for these jobs. And we just got a winner. So this is a $680 million plastics recycling and renewable facility coming to Bibb County, 5.3 million square feet. The new state-of-the-art plant will sustainably recycle all types of plastic waste, including items that cannot readily be recycled, such as plastic film, flexible packing, styrofoam, which is
that's huge.
It's huge. What we throw away and we can't, it just goes in the landfill. Plastic beverage cups, car seats, and children's toys. It's called Brightmark. The company is expected to fill more than 100 jobs in engineering, maintenance, and operations. So if you want to go look at that, it's brightmark.com/about/careers, or email info@brightmark.com for additional information. You can always email me, Sherri@rfmoney.com, and I can tell you about this information. So they're going to be near the Macon Airport. So we're in the zone between the Savannah Port and Atlanta Airport, and you've got all these distribution centers and all of this stuff being shipped and all this packaging. And this one just really fascinated me. So they say Georgia's pro-business environment and support for private sector innovation continues to pave the way toward a more sustainable future, but not only in Georgia but across the world. This is Governor Brian Kemp saying that. He's excited about it. The new facility is expected to divert 400,000 tons of plastic waste a year from landfills and incinerators and convert it into 64 million gallons of ultra-low sulfur diesel fuel, blend of plastic, and 20 million gallons of wax. What are you going to do with 20 million gallons of wax?
Maybe they need it for other projects or
He
other
said they can make
products.
candles out of it, but that's a lot of candles. I don't know. Wax, I'm sure, is used in a lot of commercial entities. But anyways, our community places a high value on its ability to recycle. So attracting this company is very awesome, says Lester Miller, our mayor. Brightmark will bring new technical jobs that will both benefit people living here and attract more people to move to our wonderful city.
It's just such a win-win to bring all these jobs and to do so much for the environment. That's awesome.
And so I think these guys probably are going to be able to sell carbon tax credits because they're going to be carbon negative because they're recycling. And so they will probably they'll probably make money off of that on top of all this other stuff is probably why this works. It'll be interesting to see, but it'd be fun to get a tour of this place once it opens up.
That would be fun.
Yeah,
it says it'll be the world's largest facility.
Right,
and they
right
only have
here.
one other one in the U.S., which is in Indiana, where I'm from. So
but the world's
Georgia,
largest
Indiana.
right here in middle Georgia.
That's crazy.
Who would have thought?
Awesome. The next thing we're going to talk about is medical billing surprises in a bad way.
Right.
Sherri had a client this week that told her about this, and we found this article. It's called surprise billing or balance billing. So it's when the patient receives in-network care that's provided by an out-of-network health provider without the patient knowing. And then balance.
So this person, here's an example. So they went to the emergency room because of something, and they had to be treated, and so they grabbed a doctor to do the treatment. And then it turns out the doctor was not in the network, even though the ER was. That's what we're talking about. And so you got all these different players that are all just trying to get something done. And the end result is you end up being stuck with a bill that you shouldn't have to pay.
It all just seems crazy that, they don't know better to take care of that and make sure that they're putting you with the right doctors, or that the facility has in and out of networks. But when you're in an emergency situation, you're not like, now wait, let me check.
Are you in my network?
Are you in my network? And I'll just wait an extra half an hour for the next guy.
Right.
The article also talked about one of the biggest areas was anesthesiologists, and a lot of doctors are, working on their own, and they're because of insurances and stuff, they're not, staying with that same facility, and so they're seeing huge pay cuts, and then they're switching their facilities that they're working in. But there's ultimately, it says, because there's no contract signed between the out-of-network provider and the insurance company, it's basically a fight between them, and the patient gets stuck in the middle. And we found out that there's only 18 states, and Georgia is one of those, that offer comprehensive protections against this balance billing. And
so it shouldn't be a
states,
problem for people. It
hopefully
shouldn't be a problem, but it is.
But there are some states that have no protections, and one of the close ones to us is Alabama. So if you'd like more information about this, email us. We'll send you this article. But the main thing that we got from it and from the client that Sherri had talked with is be sure you're checking all your medical bills. So many people get things in the mail and they just pay them, or they get phone calls and they kind of get bullied into paying things and they're just told to pay it and they don't ever question it. But there are some ways out of some of those things. If you get this and, there can be ways to go around it where you don't have to pay the full bill. So the article, we'd be happy to send to you, Becca at rfmoney.com, or Sherri, SHERRI, at rfmoney.com. We'll send you more information about that.
So this is interesting. In December 2020, Trump signed the No Surprises Act, which offers comprehensive consumer protections against surprise out-of-network bills, but that doesn't go into effect until January of next year.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah. And then they talk about how 20% of privately insured patients get elective surgery by some out-of-network and get some out-of-network charge. 20%.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of people. And then ground ambulances were omitted from the No Surprise Act, even though they have the highest out-of-network billing rate. And I believe that was the thing that my client got billed $800 for an ambulance ride, and it was not covered. I think that was the thing. I think it was even higher than that. But anyways.
Well, and if they need any type of air transportation, that's in the tens of thousands of dollars.
Right. Anyways, so even if you call 911 and you need an ambulance and the ambulance shows up and is out of network, what are you going to do? Say, I'll wait for the next one? Hey, let me call back. Okay. Anyhow, that's just crazy. I didn't realize Georgia is not supposed to be doing that. So don't pay a bill that you don't think you owe.
At least check into it first.
Yeah. So Georgia's going to be reinstating their pre-pandemic unemployment eligibility requirements. They're going to require that people actively look for work, be able to work, and are available for work. The requirements become mandatory on June 27th. So the people who've been staying at home and not working because they don't want to, they're trying to push these people back into the workplace. Individuals who reside in the state of Georgia must register with Employ Georgia, the state's reemployment system, and include his or her social. During the registration, individuals will be asked to create a searchable resume or upload a searchable resume to the site and submit 3 work search contacts. 3 a week is nothing. Really? No. If you need a job, you need to be like 10 a day.
But that's great because that's what it's always been in the past. And then the last year or so, you don't even have to prove hardly that you're even looking.
Doing anything.
Yeah. And
right.
so I think it's good that people have to prove that they're working because the money should be for people that aren't working, that want to
really
work.
Can't,
that are
can't
trying to find
get a job. So anyways, the unemployment's being reduced. So this means that reported earnings more than $150 will be deducted dollar for dollar from the weekly entitlement amount. That's interesting.
Yeah, it said they used to allow a $300 amount to not count against you, but now they're reducing that to $150.
So anyways, need to apply for a job if you don't have a job because the unemployment benefits are getting cut. It is time to get back to work. So all my clients are worried about a housing market crash and inflation. Those two things, the media, in fact, when I was looking for articles this week, that is what the media is just pounding and pounding and pounding on, this impending doom. And so do you want to talk about the inflation stuff?
Sure. Says the recent inflation surge gives Federal Reserve officials further reason to begin discussing an eventual wind down of their pandemic-driven easy money policies at their meeting next week. So their economists are being concerned that the Fed could fall behind the curve on inflation as it seeks to aid the labor's market recovery. So normally the Fed is, looking down the road and they start making adjustments ahead of time. But with the way the market's been right now, they're kind of trying to wait. The Fed's wanting to wait until the labor markets get back up. But it said it also could be that the underlying demand-supply balance will not correct as readily or as comfortably as the Fed had expected earlier. The first step is what's a gradual process, and scaling back easy money would be slow. To slow Fed purchases of mortgages, government bonds, and they don't seem to be in a hurry to do that. But something I found kind of shocking, consumer prices rose 5% in May from a year earlier, according to the Labor Department. And so-called core prices, which exclude volatile food and energy components rose 3.8%, the largest jump since 1992.
I wonder if that consumer price includes housing. I bet it does.
I bet it's Well, you
That
think
would be
so?
huge.
Because I think houses have rose in that next
20%.
article more than that. Yeah.
Right.
So maybe it's.
But food, I haven't noticed so much with the food, but yeah, gas costs more. But anyways, the Fed is going to unwind this. They do this every time we go through a rough patch, is they provide money and they prop up the market and they keep interest rates low so people will spend, and then they will slowly raise interest rates. So the 10-year Treasury as of this morning was at 1.46%. The 30-year was at 2.15. And so they're going to let those rates go up when they see that things have actually started to really improve on their own, which you can just look anywhere and you can see that now. They also say that they won't raise interest rates until the labor market has returned to max employment. See, I think the labor market should already be at max employment. And then inflation has risen to 2%, and that's when they're going to raise interest rates. So interest rates will go up. I don't know if anybody out there still hasn't refinanced their mortgage down to the 2 point whatever percent it is, but now would be your last chance to do anything like that. And tell your kids, if they're not aware of this, that they need to take advantage of it. And you can go to DaveRamsey.com. He has a mortgage refi calculator that's phenomenal. You put in your beginning starting loan balance, you put in your interest rate, you put in a new interest rate, and it tells you how much more you would save a month. And if you could do that and take that extra money and throw it back on the principal balance of the mortgage, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Just depends on how much it costs and how many years you have left in the home. You've got to always balance and weigh all of that before you refi. But I can't imagine anybody out there has not done a refi unless they tried and their credit was screwed up and then they didn't fix their credit, and so they need to fix their credit and then go back and try the refi. I mean, there are probably people out there that just have thrown their hands up in the air just because it didn't happen easily. So yeah, there's a process.
Yeah, sometimes things like that take some work, but it can be worth it in the end, especially if you could save several $100s a month.
Yeah, and put that to the principal. It's huge. And then you can do the calculator of, okay, here's my loan, and I put an extra $200 a month. You can shave years off. I mean, there are calculators all over the internet on increasing your payment and putting money on principal and how much faster you'll pay your house off. In fact, I just saw somebody this week. She had $20,000 that she inherited, and she owns only $70,000 on her house, and she's making already extra payments to pay it off faster. I said, dump it right on the principal. Take that money, just dump it and get your balance down to 50, because the closer you get to the end of your loan, the lower the interest rate, because that's how mortgages are set up, that you pay the most interest in the beginning and the least at the end. And so the faster you can get to that end tail and reduce how much of your total payment goes to principal, it's massive how it accelerates the payoff. So.
Right. Yeah, when I did mortgage lending, we found that, on average, just making one extra payment a year.
Yes.
And you don't necessarily have to make the one payment. Like, say your payment's $1,000, or say it's $1,200, and you divide that and you just pay $100 extra each month. And so by the end of the year, you've made an extra payment. It can cut years off your mortgage just by making one extra payment a year.
Yeah, it's huge.
Like
so yeah,
check out the calculators. Come see us. We'll do some numbers for you.
And the only time I don't say to do this is if you're going to move. If you're going to sell your house and move, and you know that's for sure, then save the money in your retirement account instead, or put it aside for a down payment on the next place, because you don't want to accelerate a payoff of a home you're not going to stay in. There's no point in that if you're going to sell it and then take that money. Because you're not going to earn any money by paying it off earlier.
Right.
You're just going to get more at closing. And so you just got to weigh all of these things in your mind and on paper. So the other thing that the media is talking about here is a housing market crash, because all the home prices are going up, and so everybody's freaking out. National home prices were overvalued by 8%, according to Fitch ratings. And so everybody's thinking, oh my gosh, the sky is falling because the housing prices are going up. But there's a lot of reasons this is going up. There's huge demand. It just blows my mind. Our son they're in the process of building, and it's just been a nightmare. Now it's a nightmare trying to get somebody to even build the house. I mean, the demand is just so massive, and it's not just older people that are retiring. Older people that are retiring are actually staying in their homes longer. And so it's the younger people that can either work from home and want a different space, or they want to live somewhere else, or they're just trying to either, like our kids are actually downsizing in their 30s because they overbought before. And they realized they bought too big. It was too much maintenance, too much expense. And so they're going to shift down in their 30s. And their goal is to be debt-free fast, because that's what they want. They want to be debt-free now so they have more freedom to do what they want to do in the future, which is I find phenomenal for a 30-year-old. I was not.
That's awesome.
I wasn't in that brain space. And it could be because we pound them over the head all the time, but I don't think that's it. I think it's their own conclusion they've come to, because the other kid is not in the same. Now, they're going to be debt-free within, they will, in Colorado, I think they're going to be, the house will be paid off in 10 years. They've already accelerated their payoff, so at 40, she'll be debt-free.
Wow.
With a
that'd be
house
awesome.
and that car, the whole thing, which is crazy. I was not, but I didn't have that kind of income either. They have income better than we did at that age. So, but yeah, encourage your kids to do this, but don't freak out about the housing. But the last time we went through a recession in 2008 and 9, it was because of subprime loans. Money was so easy. People were able to just sign a piece of paper and get a house. People that shouldn't have qualified were able to get a house, and they were charging all these high interest rates and then bundling these mortgages into these CDOs they were selling all over the world at these high rates, and everybody thought it could never go down, and then it fell like a rock, and everybody got caught. So this is not that.
A lot of these people were, like you said, they weren't really qualified, but they were getting qualified for these loans.
Yep.
And then a lot of them got adjustable rates, and so then a year or two later, after they'd been in this like $600 or $700 payment, the rates adjusted, and it went up to $1,000, and they'd already, people that maybe struggled with their finances, and their payments went up and they couldn't afford their houses anymore. So then the foreclosure started, and it's nothing like now. There's, like Sherri said, there's a lot of different reasons why the market is up now, just because all the millennials are entering the market. The older people aren't moving out of their houses. There's not as many home builds now because of prices with construction. And
I was shocked that millennials account for 37% of all home buyers from July 19 to June of 2020. 37%. Isn't that amazing?
Those darn millennials.
It makes you wonder if they're moving or downsizing or upsizing or what they're doing. The other thing with people with flex jobs, 65% of people working remotely during the pandemic want to keep working from home. I don't blame them.
And then the low rates, all the low rates right now, everybody thinks it's the best time to buy a house.
Right. So it's just interesting. But anyway, so don't freak out, people. Get outside, breathe some fresh air, take a look at the sunset or something to relax, because the news is not going to help you relax. They're going to keep you spun up because they want to keep you tuned in, and they're going to talk more negative than positive because that's what attracts your brain. And so you'd have to make a choice as to whether to shut it down or not. So
if you have any questions, come and see us.
That's right.
Give us a call, 478-922-8100. We'll be happy to make appointments with you. Come see Sherri or I. We, just want to chat with you, get your finances in order, answer any questions you might have.
Set some goals for the future.
Oh, perfect.
All of that good stuff. You can even tell your kids to come see us. I saw one of those a couple weeks ago. One of my clients had his son come see me, and it was really fun to talk to a young person who has their whole future in front of them and making lots of huge decisions that will impact them for the rest of his life. So we're not just for retirees too. We can see other people too. But anyways, retireerelax.com is the website. Lots of special reports. Thanks so much for listening this weekend, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you.
The views expressed on the show should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities or services mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risk, including loss of principal invested. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. No strategy can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information should only be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Securities are offered through Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated, member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services are offered through Rosenberg Financial Group, a registered investor advisor not affiliated with Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated. Offices are located at 2517 Moody Road, Warner Robins, and 4875 Riverside Drive, Suite 201 in Macon. Phone numbers are 922-8100 and 741-4457.